I wish to invite Dr. Mustapha Abdul Hamid, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Petroleum Authority in Ghana. And he happens to be the President of African Refiners and Distributors Association. So, Dr. Mustapha, if you can give us a note, small, brief note on what you think. You are dealing with fossil fuel, an endowment Ghana has. How are you trying to, I think, the perspective of harnessing that resource into enriching or the migration or investment in the green economy in Ghana? Dr. Mustapha?
Over 600 million Africans do not have access to electricity. Outside of South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, Ghana, these are the only 4 countries on the continent, of course, some of the North African countries, that have electricity penetration of 70% and above. So it means that even with the resources that we have now, the so-called greenhouse emitting fuels, we still have a huge challenge with energy supply and access for our citizens. And in my country, there's an ethnic group called the Dagomba people, who have a proverb that says that which is in our mouths is what allows us to be patient for that which is on the pot to cook. For example, these developed countries, Britain, America, for example, are signing new oil exploration contracts as we speak. They compelled South Africa to close down its coal mines. And because of that, South Africa is in power crisis as we speak. Yet, Africa has only, as he said, contributes only 3% to global greenhouse emissions. North America, Europe, and Asia alone contribute over 90%. So really and truly, if we are talking about people who should be transitioning to cleaner fuels and cleaner energy and so on and so forth, I think that they should first transition completely and wait for us for another 30 or so years to exploit our resources, industrialize and develop our societies to catch up. I just came from Paris on the 14th of May, just nearly 10 days ago. We held what was called the Clean Cooking in Africa Summit in Paris. First of all, I found it ironical that Africans are going to Paris to discuss clean cooking on their continent. But nonetheless, I went. And now, the people who came there, Norway, there were 3 African presidents there. There was the president of Tanzania, there was the president of Sierra Leone, there was the president of Togo. And the Togolese president made an important point and said that if Africans would have access to clean cooking, then we must subsidize LPG for the African people. Yet we have all these so-called Bretton Woods institutions telling us that we cannot subsidize anything for our people. Let me give you an example of why. You know, our president, the first president of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, said that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. And that's why I like the theme for this conference, Contemporary Security Challenges, the African perspective, not the Rwandan perspective. Because really and truly, if we are not integrating our resources and thinking holistically as Africans, we are going to perish. Ghana requires $400 million every month to import petroleum products. $400 million. Not 400 million cedis or 400 million kwacha. Why? So if you are looking for dollars to import petroleum products, naturally your currency is going to plummet. And once your currency plummets, the petroleum prices are going to go up. It is going to affect food prices, and therefore you are going to create suffering for the ordinary people of your country. I think that all of us, whether it's East Africa, SADC, West Africa, should begin immediately by integrating our economies. Look, when we talk about clean fuel or electric vehicles, they are talking about moving to electric vehicles and so on. What produces electric vehicles or the batteries that power electric vehicles? Is it not the lithium, the cobalt, the manganese, and so on? Go to the DRC and see the devastation that the exploitation of lithium is causing to the environment. Vast farmlands are being destroyed, waters are polluted, and so on. So it's not true that electric vehicles is necessarily clean energy. You are doing so at the expense of the impoverished mass of our people. Niger has uranium, which powers most of the power plants in France. Niger sells uranium to France. Well, thank God the current military government in Niger has cancelled those contracts with France. And we should cancel most of these contracts. They sell uranium worth about 358, nearly 3.5 billion euros of uranium to France, yet they get only 458 million. Why? Recently, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire showed an example. They formed what they call the Ghana Cote d'Ivoire Cocoa Initiative. Basically like a cartel, because between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, we control 60% of world production of cocoa. So we decided to form a cartel and say, this is how much we are going to sell. It drove up the prices of cocoa and gave us more money. That's what African countries should be doing. So really and truly, I attend these conferences all of the time. In the past 3 weeks, I've been in South Africa. Like I said, I'm just from Paris, and I've come to Rwanda. But if these conferences are going to become, if you want, workshops rather than talk shops, then I think that it is the African Union where our heads of state meet, because when they meet, you and I are not there, are the ones who should take the bold initiatives of tackling the fundamental problem that we have as an African continent. One, that of refusing to sell our resources for cheap to European nations. Two, to find a way of trading better amongst ourselves. Well, they formed what they call the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which is headquartered in Ghana. I still don't know what that means. Three, we therefore also have to find a way of exploiting. MJ Ayuk, who is the president of Ghana Africa Energy Chamber, has a famous phrase. He said, drill, baby, drill, drill, baby, drill. We need to invest in our resources and drill more of the resources that we have in order to move on. Because if we don't even have what is there, how are we then dreaming of a pie in the sky? So for me, this is my take on all of the things that the people have said. I think that we still have a long way to go in terms of energy transition. Ghana has done its energy transition plan, and we have said that we are ready to transition by 2070. That's our plan, and we are going to stick by it. Nobody's going to compel us to go 2030 because it's not even realistic in the first place. And so I think that Africa should come together and have a common energy transition plan. 3% of greenhouse emissions, why are you asking us to reduce when you are signing energy contracts? Thank you very much.
As you put it, I think the energy transition does not necessarily mean 100% shift from other sources to renewables, but rather find ways of mitigating the resources you have. If it's coal and you need to use it to produce energy, if it's fossil fuels, work on mitigation, on the reduction of the emissions, and move on like that. Otherwise, not like entire, really 100% shift. And another thing you mentioned, it was also mentioned here in the passing. Obviously, because of many competing priorities, our countries and governments are looking at mainly priming the economy, which can only be done by producing electricity at the expense of putting less efforts into clean cooking and heating. Fortunately, and today, it's now become an agenda under consideration, which indeed contributes a lot towards these greenhouse gases. And we shall be lying to ourselves if we say there's now entire shift from using biomass into heating and cooking to 100% LPG, which may happen over time. Otherwise, it's a journey we need to look at by rather mitigating, which many countries are doing. Rwanda is doing that, coming up with clean cooking, clean sources of fuel for the cooking or heating, and you move on that way and transition slowly.